Young Turks. I'm your host, Jake. You're back. Nobody remembers that Eminem song. Guess who's back? I'm back. All right. So I know it was a little bit long this vacation. Sorry about that. I did go to Europe. We'll talk about it in the post game. It was fun. I did go to Turkey. I made it back safely. Yes. Okay. Lots to talk about there. tytnetwork.com/join to become a member to get that fun post game. If you were watching us on YouTube and you get to our live videos there, you saw me raging about the first story I'm going to cover for you guys. That's the Ossoff special election in Georgia's 6th district, and we will talk about that in just a second. Most expensive campaign in history, as I'll reiterate in a second for you guys. But a little bit later in the program, I'm going to needlessly make fun of Chris Christie. I'm going to tell you a story that in my absence I think was not highlighted nearly enough about Donald Trump. We will do that a little bit later. And then second hour, there's heartbreaking video. If you haven't seen the video of Philando Castile's girlfriend being comforted by her 4-year-old daughter after the shooting when she was in the handcuffed, oh man, it's painful to watch, I have to be honest with you, but we have to go through that pain so that we understand what folks in this country are actually going through. Now, if you don't care about it, you don't care what people are going through, okay, that's your prerogative. But our job is to shine a light on these things so that we can begin to fix it. All right, so now let me shine a light on the Democratic Party. Let's get started. Okay. Another day and another Democratic loss. We were told that in Georgia's 6th district, we had a good chance of winning. There's good reason for that. Jon Ossoff, first of all, had come in first place in the first round of the election. That's where they had over a dozen candidates running. Now, the Republicans split the vote in a lot of ways. The top Republican vote getter was Karen Handel. She only got 20%. Jon Ossoff got 48%. Karen Handel has lost several important elections, including a governor's race and a Senate race. So good reason to believe she's not that great a candidate. And it was a tight race between Trump and Hillary Clinton in 2016. And over $25 million went to Jon Ossoff to win this election, and a ton of press attention. And let's find out what happened. I think kind of see where this is going. Yes, Karen Handel did win. 51.9% for Karen Handel to 48.1% Jon Ossoff. Exactly where he left off in that first part of the election, where he got about 48%. He got that same 48%, and all the Republicans and everyone else coalesced behind Handel, and she handled it, and she won. Now, I'm pretty irate about that. I'll tell you why in a second, but let me give you a little bit of context first. Kansas, there was another special election earlier in the year, and there the Democrat did much better than expected, and he came within almost about 7 points of winning there. Ron Estes did wind up beating James Thompson in that Kansas special election. But like in Georgia, that's a better result than has been in the past. These are deeply red districts. In the case of Georgia, kind of. I'll come back to that in a second. Montana, there was a special election where Rob Quist lost by about 6 points to his Republican challenger, who apparently is moonlighting at the WWE. I don't know why he's not in prison right now for body slamming a reporter, but anyway, he was charged with that. But Quist and the Democratic Party found a way to lose to him anyway. Now, fair to Quist, that body slam was a little bit later in the campaign, and Quist at least did run on one good issue and did score some points there. And I think he actually could have won if he ran more aggressively. But there was also a second election yesterday, and that was in South Carolina. And there, it was expected to be an absolute blowout, and it wasn't. So Ralph Norman did win narrowly over Archie Parnell, who was a Democrat in that race. So if you're looking at a South Carolina race where it's supposed to be a blowout and it's only about a 3-point win, okay, I get it. If you look at all these, they were all supposed to be blowouts and all much, much closer than anticipated. I get it. But if you're doing the math at home, that's still 4 races, 4 losses. Now, of course, Democrats, when they see 4 losses, get excited. Hence this quote in the New York Times: even as Mr. Ossoff lost, the Democrats' spirits were somewhat lifted by the unexpectedly strong showing of their nominee in another special House election Tuesday in South Carolina. Now, when you lose 4 elections in a row, having your spirits lifted is not the correct reaction. The correct reaction is, damn it, we again did something wrong. We're not winning here, literally. So why is Georgia a little bit different than the other deeply red districts? Now, yes, granted, the Tom Price had won that seat by 23 points in just the 2016 elections, and that's Newt Gingrich's old district, et cetera. But look at in 2016 how close Trump and Clinton were in that same district. So Trump had 48.3, Hillary Clinton had 46.8. Actually, Hillary Clinton in that district was closer to Trump than Ossoff was to handle. So the Democrats, after all that and all the money that was spent, and of course the Republicans outspent him anyway, it wound up being the most expensive House race in American history. They lost. They lost ground. Jon Ossoff lost ground to Hillary Clinton in Georgia. Okay, congratulations, Democrats. Job well done. Okay, now I'm going to explain why I think he lost and what he did wrong in the election, and what the Democratic Party is doing wrong and what they should do instead. So let's continue with the New York Times to give us context. Ossoff appeared so close to victory that Democrats were allowing themselves to imagine a win that would spur a wave of Republican retirements, a recruitment bonanza, and a Democratic fundraising windfall heading into the 2018 midterm elections. So they got all dreamy-eyed. They're like, oh yeah, man, when Ossoff wins, Republicans are just gonna give up. There's gonna be a wave of retirements. Really? I mean, that's your experience with the Republican Party, they just give up? No, you guys are the ones who give up. They're the ones who attack viciously and over again. They're the ones who are relentless. And you thought that this victory would be so stunning in favor of Democrats that the Republicans would begin to surrender. Gee, I wonder why the Democratic Party says they never ever get it. They're filled to the rim with hubris. Okay, conservative groups poured $12 million into the runoff, nearly all of it assailing Mr. Ossoff. So when the Republicans come in, you know what they do? They come in with a stick and they viciously attacked Ossoff. What do the Democrats do? Kids gloves. So I'm going to show you kids gloves in a second. First, let's show you the stick that the Republicans brought. The apparent success of relentless Republican attacks linking Ossoff to the House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi and her, quote, San Francisco values also affirmed the efficacy of tying Democratic candidates in conservative districts to their brethren in more liberal parts of the country. Now, that is, of course, what the New York Times assessment of that is, okay? So yes, I think tying him to Nancy Pelosi is effective. That's among the many reasons why he should have run as a Justice Democrat. If he had done that, he'd run a strong campaign, I believe he would have won. Now, of course, you can't prove that, I understand that, but I believe there's good. First of all, we know what doesn't work, which is running as a so-called centrist Democrat. How many times do you have to try that before you realize it doesn't work, okay? And I think that people are upset at Nancy Pelosi, and they are, especially in conservative areas, not just because she's a liberal. They view her as a big government person and one who is in this corrupt system and has been in the corrupt system for a long, long time. Well, that's true. So Just Democrats are not backing Nancy Pelosi. So you can't say, oh, hey, these Just Democratic candidates running against Republicans in red states, they're with Nancy Pelosi, because they're not with Nancy Pelosi. So there goes your talking point on that. And it's not to run away from progressive ideals, the exact opposite. They're gonna run stronger towards progressive ideals. But if you say, hey, why don't you stand by the incredibly ancient Democratic establishment politicians that people associate with big government corruption, our answer is no. That's what we're against, we're not for that. So then if you run as a real person, not tied to that corruption, then perhaps you have a little bit of chance of winning. Now, and I don't mean that Nancy Pelosi is any more personally corrupt than anybody else in Congress. I mean, they are systemically corrupted, and Nancy Pelosi, having been there for approximately 280 years, is a decent example of that. Sorry, but that is what a lot of Americans believe. Now, these guys always say, oh, be realistic now, Cenk, it's Georgia. So that's why you gotta make sure that you're for cutting taxes on the rich. But when you say, hey, be realistic, your Democratic establishment is viewed as corrupt because they've taken billions of dollars from donors, they're like, hey, watch it, that's not fair. Of course it's fair. So you want to talk about not fair? Let's look at how the Republicans ran their races, okay? So they timed to Nancy Pelosi. They spent almost all their ads attacking Ossoff, and then they run vicious, over-the-top ads like this.
Now the unhinged left is endorsing and applauding shooting Republicans. When will it stop? It won't if Jon Ossoff wins on Tuesday, because the same unhinged leftists cheering last week's shooting are all backing Jon Ossoff. And if he wins, they win. Stop them. Stop them now. Stop Jon Ossoff. Stop Nancy Pelosi. Vote Karen Handel for Congress. Vote Principled Leadership Project PAC paid for this ad and is solely responsible for its content.
Now, progressives and Democrats complain about that ad, and you are right to. That is outrageous, right? But guess what it does? Unfortunately, it works. Republicans run vicious campaigns, smearing the other side, attacking aggressively, and they win. And what did the Democrats learn about from that? Cry more, go more towards Republicans. No, why don't you run vicious, not unfair, but yes, deserved vicious attacks against them? Why don't you tie Karen Handel to all the most extreme Republicans? Oh, I don't know, that would be against the Queensberry rules, really. Do they look like they're playing by the Queensberry rules? Okay, whatever Donald Trump has said, oh no, but Trump is popular. He's not popular in that district. He barely carried that district, right? Whatever David Duke said, oh, don't you declare, that would be quite unfair. Do you think they're playing fair? How many times are you going to lose before what you understand what politics is about? It isn't about beer summits. It isn't about running towards Republicans. It's about beating the other side. And then they tell us, oh no, Cenk, the Justice Democrats, for example, the strong wing of the Democratic Party would lose the Republicans. You don't know how to win. Wait a minute, when is the last time you won? When is the last time you won? You don't know anything about winning. So again, let us review the Democratic failure and track record of failure. They lost to Donald Trump. First of all, end of conversation. Why is anybody in the country listening to the establishment Democrats? You guys lost to Donald Trump. He was the least popular person to ever run for president, and you lost to him anyway. Why are we having this conversation? But then on top of that, you lost the House, you lost the Senate, you lost the Supreme Court. You lost 69 out of 99 state legislatures. In about the last decade, you lost over 1,000 seats at the state level. Now, who knows about winning and losing? But you told me Ossoff was gonna win. You took a lot of big donors, but you also took a lot of small donors, and all those people believed in you, and they sent in money to Ossoff to run that stupid, soft, centrist campaign that he ran. And how'd that turn out for you? Yet another loss. Who would have guessed? So now let's go to namby-pamby campaign that Ossoff ran. So in his concession speech, you're gonna begin to get a flavor for it here.
You picked this campaign up, and you picked me up, and you picked Alicia up, and you carried us on your shoulders. And we showed the world that in places where no one thought it was even possible to fight, we could fight. We showed them what courage and kindness and humility are capable of. We showed them that we can still build coalitions of people who may not see eye to eye on everything, but rather than demonizing each other, we find common ground to move forward. And that's the only way this country will move forward. So this is not the outcome any of us were hoping for. But this is the beginning of something much bigger than us.
Look, if you're a Democrat who's been watching Democrats for the last 40 years, you might like parts of that. I hated every word in that. And let me explain why. I want to be very clear about this. We fought where they thought we couldn't fight. Well, why do you guys think you can't fight somewhere? Of course we can fight anywhere, right? That's a district Trump won by 1.5 points. Why would anybody think you can't fight there? And you fought, what happened? You lost. So, okay, I get it, he's got to say something. Okay, much more importantly, let's go to the substance of what he said. We showed them we could fight with kindness and humility. How did that turn out for you? You fought with kindness and humility, and you lost a race you could have easily won. Because guess what? In politics, kindness and humility doesn't work. Donald Trump is president. When are you going to get it through your thick head? You don't support the other side, you attack the other side. And then when I say this, they look at me like, well, you're saying crazy things. Attack the other side, that's so radical. You are in a race with them. You are competing. You would like to win, you would like them to lose. You know what you do? Politically, you punch them in the face. Okay? You tell the voters why it would be a terrible idea to elect them. A terrible, disastrous idea. But instead, we fought with kindness and humility, and we showed how you could lose again and again and again and again for the millionth time in a row. We showed them what we're capable of. Yeah, you're capable of losing. We showed them that we shouldn't demonize the other side. So they demonized you and won. You didn't demonize and you lost. Just tell me again what you showed them. You showed them that, he said, we showed them we could have common ground. Common ground with what? I don't want to have common ground with Karen Handel. I don't want to have common ground with Donald Trump. I thought you were all about resisting. What happened to resistance? When you ran the campaign, what happened to resistance? So what did Ossoff do? He did try to find common ground. Let me go back to the New York Times here. Ossoff's allies, for their part, paid for an advertising campaign deriding Ms. Handel, a former chairwoman of the Fulton County Board of Commissioners, as a profligate spender while in office. Oh God. So what'd you do? You borrowed a Republican talking point. Oh, she overspends. She's in favor of big government. When are you going to make your case? When are you going to make a case to the voters why progressives are right? You know, I looked into it. You know who else ran that campaign against Karen Handel? All of her Republican opponents in the first round. So they took Republican ads and ran it as if it was Democratic ads. Attack her on your ground. The healthcare bill right now proposed by the Republicans has a massive unpopularity. I think it's popular to unpopular is about 50-point difference. Maybe you run on that. Wow, look at that. Hey, genius idea, right? I mean, I can go down the list of things that are, you run on protecting Social Security, she's gonna cut Social Security. Well, I don't know if Karen Handel's ever said that. Find a Republican who said it, you've got a dozen of them, and then say Karen Handel was with the son of a bitch looking to cut Social Security. Oh no, but Cenk, that wouldn't be finding common ground. Then how would I run as a Republican? I mean, Democrat. I mean, then my large donors would be upset. They want tax cuts, so let's go to that. Mr. Ossoff, for his part, sought to avoid being linked to Ms. Pelosi or labeled a liberal, oh God forbid, being labeled a liberal. He assured voters he would not raise taxes on the rich. Of course he did. He assured his voters, that he would not raise taxes on the rich. And in pledging to root out wasteful spending and seek compromise, he sounded more like an heir to former Senator Sam Nunn's brand of Southern centrism than a progressive millennial. Okay. You want to know how you do that, right? On the taxes issue, right? Now, I know that they're more wealthy in the suburbs of Atlanta where this district is. They always treat us like we're children. Oh, we're playing three-dimensional chess. You're playing checkers. You lost to Donald Trump. Don't tell me you're playing chess, okay? So you'd be lucky to be playing marbles. So, okay, yes, we know they don't want their taxes raised. But talk to them about, hey, you know what? You guys don't like big government. I don't like big government either. I'll tell you the big government I don't like. Big government that goes and starts all those wars in the Middle East, gets our kids killed, misspends trillions of our dollars. Was Karen Handel in favor of the Iraq war? I don't know, find out, right? And find out how many Republicans voted for the Iraq war and go, damn it, they wasted trillions of your money. You want them to waste trillions again? Vote for Karen Handel, you get more war, more money wasted. You want that? Oh no, but Jake, that would be uncivil. That would be uncivil. No, instead, let's do a campaign where we say that we will cut taxes on the rich. People in red districts are no further attached to your corporate buddies than people in blue districts. You run as a populist, you run strong. But if you continue to run weak and call it centrism, then you're gonna continue to lose. And if you were an actual centrist, what you would do is you would actually do something based in facts. And look, I get angry, so it's easy to say, oh, he's emotional. No, look at the facts, look at the facts. The facts are the Democratic establishment are losers. That sounds harsh, but it's a fact. You want me to go over it again? Trump, House, Senate, Supreme Court, 69 out of 99 state legislatures. Facts on what's actually centrist and not centrist. Look at the polling. On every issue, the country is significantly, if not massively, center left. I know if you're on TV, you're in New York or Washington, your head just exploded. Oh, no way, the country's center right, the country's center right. That's your talking point. Where? Show me a poll. Social Security, taxes, yes, defense, yes, immigration reform, yes, on every single issue. Gay rights, marijuana legalization, every single issue. The country is center left. So if you want to be a centrist, you don't run right, you run left. But yet again, the moronic loser Democratic establishment found a way to lose an election they had no business losing. And then just at the end there, Trump rubs it in. He sends a bunch of tweets, I'll just quote two of them for you. Thank you, Fox News, he tweets. Quote, huge win for President Trump and GOP in Georgia congressional special election. Congratulations, Democratic Party. You just let Donald Trump brag about a huge win for Donald Trump. Yet again, progressives didn't run the race against Donald Trump. You did. You did. You gave us this monster. Own it. And then Trump says Democrats would do much better as a party if they got together with Republicans on healthcare, tax cuts, security obstruction doesn't work. Well, they just got together on tax cuts. How'd that turn out? It turned out in another loser Democrat. So if you wanted Ossoff to win and you don't like hearing the ugly truth, it's not gonna change it, man. The seat is in Republican hands because the Democrats have lost another incredibly winnable seat. If he had run as a strong progressive, either as a just Democrat or not, but just as a strong populist progressive, he would have won, Quist would have won. We would have at least 2 more seats, let alone what could have happened in South Carolina or Kansas. But they're gonna continue to run centrist, meaning donor-friendly campaigns. If Ossoff had said, I'm not taking any big donors. He got so much money from small donors, he didn't need the big donors. And he ran against corruption, both in the Republican and Democratic Party. He'd be a US congressman today. That I will guarantee you. Now we'll never find out because as with so many Democrats, he took the advice of the Democratic consultants that came in and said, oh, sure. Let's run another soft campaign and let's let the Republicans win again. If you want to keep going in that direction, the Democratic Party's perfect and their losing ways are perfect for you, okay? I want to go in a different direction. I want to actually win races. I know, in Washington, Democrats fighting aggressively to win races is an unacceptable idea. I think it is perfectly acceptable, and I think we can win and we will win, and it starts in primaries in 2018. And Democratic Party, go ahead and cry if you want. But we're within the Democratic Party, we're the Justice Democrats. And we're gonna come for you, and it's not to be Democrats. It's so that we can actually win some goddamn seats against Republicans. Because you obviously have no earthly idea what you're doing. So step aside, Butch. And if we gotta go through you to get to the Republicans, we will, because we obviously can't leave this to you. You're never gonna turn around and you're never gonna figure out how to beat Republicans. So we're done with you. Go to justicedemocrats.com right now, sign up and show them what we're made of. Strong progressives. We're gonna run those campaigns and unlike the Democratic Party, we're gonna win. Okay. Now I'm gonna come back to kicking Democratic ass in a second. But first, let me go to this lowlife named Eric Erickson for a second. If I was a Democratic host, I would say, well, this perfectly acceptable guy I'd like to find common ground with. Okay. Eric Erickson is a right-wing pundit, and he's, for reasons I'll explain in a second, a bit of a beta male. He's very threatened by strong women. I don't know why you'd be threatened by strong women unless you were an incredibly weak man. So let's get to the heart of this issue. You have the Jon Ossoff Karen Handel election in Georgia's 6th district. Karen Handel wins. We start this off with Jill Filipovich, who is a known feminist writer, and she tweets out this statement after the election. She says, at what point is this not a failure of Democrats, but toxic, vindictive voters willing to elect hateful bigots? Now, she refers to Karen Handel as a bigot, partly, I imagine, because she says that lesbians should not be able to adopt children. Well, there's a good case for bigot there. I actually disagree with Jill's analysis overall. I think it is that loser Democrats lost this election. I think that you could have found a way to fight harder in that election and win. Okay, but fine enough, the perfectly acceptable political disagreement there. Eric Erickson didn't go in that direction. Here's what he said. Another reminder that feminists tend to be angry women, jealous at other women's successes. Okay, now, first of all, feminists want equal rights for women as just as men have them, right? Same rights as men. Okay, so if you have those same rights, there's no need to be angry, and it's easy to do the stereotypes of shrill, angry women, right? And missing the irony of that misogyny is both a little amusing and bemusing. But if you don't have equal rights, or you're not treated the same way, well, wouldn't you be angry? I would. Maybe I'm an excitable guy, but if I was treated unfairly, I'd be pretty angry too, right? Now, in this case, like Karen Handel, for example, wants to defund Planned Parenthood, and she wants to criminalize abortion. Who wants to put other women in jail. Now, so for Eric Erickson and conservatives like him, perfect. I get to say I'm for a woman. I'm for women. I'm for women who want to take away rights from other women. Perfect. See, a successful woman is one who works for us, who works for our agenda. Okay. Now, in reality, do feminists want successful women? Of course. That's the whole point of being a feminist, is that you want the same rights and you want women to be able to succeed just like men. As long as they have the same rights, they will, right? But now you say, no, they're against successful women. No, the whole point of the feminist movement is to be in favor of successful women. But if you're not in favor of women who want to take away other women's rights, you see that you're against successful women. Okay. By the way, it's not just Eric Erickson, it's many conservatives. Here's another conservative pundit, Sean Davis. He tweets, there's no one a bitter feminist hates more than an independent woman who's more successful than she is. No. Like, do you see feminists talking about, that business executive who's successful? God, I hate her. No, they applaud that. There's a person in medicine, a really successful doctor. Successful female doctors, feminists hate them. On which planet? Right? No, they are against other women because they don't think like you. You think, men, I protect men, me men, you woman, me angry, but kind of scared, right? They think, hey, if a guy could be a doctor, a woman should be allowed to be a doctor. Should a guy also be allowed to be a doctor? Of course, it's not men versus women. We just want the same rights. And so they don't think that they hate her for being independent. They don't like her for her actual opinions. They're judging her on the content of her character and her policies. I know it's foreign to you because you like to group people, like what race are they, what gender are they, and who do I hate? Well, all of them except me, okay. By the way, Eric Erickson is not the first time he's run into these issues. He also got into trouble when he wrote an article called, "Is Your Daughter a Whore?" Now, my guess is that if she is a woman and she is your daughter, check. But not our women. Our women are good. They stay at home. I mean, they're successful. They tell them they do exactly as we tell them. I mean, they're independent. I'm sure they are. That article apparently was actually about Halloween and how the outfits are too slutty. They turn on Eric too much. Okay, for us males who are not threatened by strong women, we believe they should have the same rights. So I guess that would make us angry feminists. For beta males who have issues with women, then they are threatened. Like, feminists, oh my God, they want the same rights as me. Well, oh my God, what is strong, oh no. I'm melting, I'm a special snowflake who's melting. Filipovich or whatever, insulted someone I liked. Okay, Eric, grow up. Yes, feminists are for equal rights. If you don't like equal rights, yeah, well, I guess you're a conservative. Oh my God, how can you say that about conservatives? Yeah, spare me. Okay, well, moving on. Okay, let's go back to kicking Democratic ass. Do you know what blue dog Democrats are? They're this group of conservative Democrats who, if you're a conservative Democrat, what does that mean, right? Well, what are you doing in the Democratic Party? Why don't you just go be a Republican? They think it's cute to be a Democrat and then support Republican ideals. Now, there used to be a lot of them. There aren't that many of them anymore because they can't win elections. Well, I was just trying to be like a Republican and then they voted for the Republican instead. Yeah, who would have figured? Well, there are just as little as they are in the House, they could be still pivotal in getting some swing votes, so they're up to no good right now. Let me tell you about that. Blue dog Democrats, according to The Hill, huddled with leading members of President Trump's economic team on Tuesday in the Capitol, where the lawmakers pressed the administration to seek bipartisan reforms to the nation's tax code. Let me decipher that for you. These are conservative Democrats who are going to try to help Trump make tax cuts for the rich and for corporations and make them permanent. Thank you so much for being in the Democratic Party. It's really helpful. The Hill explains, just 18 members strong, the centrist blue dogs compose a tiny voice in the House. Hey, what happened? I thought Democratic Party has been telling me for the last 2 decades that if you're a centrist or a conservative Democrat, you have a better chance of winning. Do they look like they have a better chance of winning? They're almost extinct. Okay, but with GOP leaders struggling to rally their divided conference around big ticket legislation, the Blue Dogs see themselves potentially stepping into the mix to broker a bipartisan deal for the sake of getting tax reform to Trump's desk this year. Did you understand what that sentence just said? The Republicans might have trouble cutting taxes on the rich by themselves, so the Blue Dog Democrats are riding to the rescue to make sure that those tax cuts for the rich get to Trump's desk. Why, thank you so much, Blue Dog Democrats. And these are the ones you want to protect? No, thank you. They're actually worse than Republicans because they give the Republicans bipartisan cover. So, and as you see, there's an extra little gift for the Republicans at the end that the Blue Dog Democrats brag to the lobbyists about. Let's quote one of them. Sanford Bishop from Georgia says, you've got the far left, you've got the far right, and the blue dogs are in the center. And basically, we want a tax code that's efficient, that works for everybody. Efficient is code word for tax cuts for the rich and corporations. And they don't need code words, they say it. They say they want tax cuts, especially for corporate America, who are unsurprisingly their donors. And look at their framing. They frame progressives as the far left, and then they talk about the far right, and they say if you're in the center, you do exactly as corporations tell you. Thank you, but no thank you. Okay, not interested in this brand of Democrats. Okay. So Bishop continues, or they explain here, they're interested in input, the Blue Dogs are, because they recognize that it needs to be a bipartisan effort if it's going to succeed, and they want it to succeed. So why do you want it to succeed? If you're a progressive, which I guess they proudly claim that they're not, well, why would you want giant tax cuts for the rich to be enacted? I don't want you to have any input on that. I just want you to say no. Well, I mean, that's not very bipartisan of you. You're right, it's not bipartisan of me, because I'm not interested in helping Trump cut taxes for his friends. So you want to say I'm not bipartisan? You're right, I'm not. I don't want more tax cuts for the rich or for corporations. I don't want them. I wouldn't work with them on a boat, I wouldn't work with them on a goat. The Blue Dogs, meanwhile, are vowing to press ahead. Of course they are. Last week, they wrote to tax reform stakeholders on K Street, urging the groups to oppose a strictly partisan approach to this year's debate. Do you know what tax reform stakeholders on K Street means? It means corporate lobbyists. They're like, oh, precious lobbyists, corporate lobbyists, give me money, I give you tax cuts. You give me 10,000 bucks, I give you 10 billion bucks. That's the swamp. So, but if you're a corporate lobbyist, what the hell you need the Democrats for, right? You can just do it through the Republicans. But if you just use Republican votes in the Senate, you have to use a particular device called reconciliation, which means that yes, you can get past a Democratic filibuster, but that means that it only lasts for 10 years. It's not a permanent bill, it sunsets after 10 years. So hence, Representative Dan Lipinski, Democrat of Illinois, says this: reforming, and this is his plea to the lobbyists, reforming our tax system must be done in the most responsible and sustainable way, and that means it must be bipartisan. In other words, you can have your giant tax cuts, but just for 10 years if you work with Republicans. But if you also bribe us, legally of course, us Democrats, well then we'll help you make those giant tax cuts permanent. How do you like the blue dog Democrats now? No, they're not here to help you. They're not centrist, they're corporate. This is why we call them corporate Democrats. And they don't care at all about their voters. They care about their donors, and they're almost bragging about it here. We went to K Street is where all the lobbyists are, K Street stakeholders, and told them all the goodies that Democrats can deliver to the corporate lobbyists. That's what blue dog Democrats are about. And they hate it when we point that out, because it's overwhelmingly true. What else are you doing? Why else are you helping Trump get more tax cuts for the rich and for corporations? Please, justicedemocrats.com. You want strong Democrats who actually believe in being progressive, and strongly so, and stating it and clearly fighting for it, you go to Justice Democrats. You want sellout Democrats who are going to vote for Republicans and work for their donors instead, you go to blue dogs, you go to corporate Democrats, you go to establishment Democrats. Time for a revolution. It's not their party, it's our party. You board their ship, you take it over, and you set the Democratic Party in the right direction, in the direction of FDR and JFK, not in the direction of Hillary Clinton and all of her lobbyist friends. Let's go right now. Let's take the party over. JusticeDemocrats.com. If you leave it up to them, they can't wait to work with Trump. What happened to the resistance? We got resistance and a hell of a lot more. We've got revolution. Let's start with the Democratic Party so that we can actually beat Republicans. We'll be right back. Now you guys are gonna think, especially my early behind the scenes footage, like I already went and looked at the comments in the member section. You guys, oh, he's high, he's drunk. I swear to you, I'm not. Well, I just tell you if I am, right? And so I get goofy in the behind the scenes stuff.
What's the need for the butter with this pretzel? This is already super fattening it up. You don't need to put butter on this thing. Why'd they make me do it, Bitsy? Why'd they make me do it?
Hey, I'm just saying that this is known as the rear end guy. There's no way that every person he knows doesn't call him the rear end guy. I want you guys to see if you could see the lightning bugs. Whoa. Light them up. Light them up.
Is it true, Ritzy? I will now watch it later.
Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat. Imagine him, isn't it? Hey, Kiki Cat. Kiki Cat. All right, this is Kiki Cat signing out.
You have in common with your daughter?
I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that.
He said I had small hands. They're not small, are they? I never heard that one before.
1, 2, 3, 4.
There's always these weird cream cheese options. I can never just find the plain.
What about salmon?
Do I look like a grizzly bear?
Here, try this veggie.
Where's the plain? Where is it?
You're more of a grape drink kind of guy, right? Or try this mouthwash.
Where's the plain?
Do you like sexual healing?
Where is the plain? Where's the plain? Where's the plain? Where is it? Where's the plane?
Dude. Anna Rasparian.
No, I want the plane. Supervisor! Aren't you the supervisor? Isn't that the whole point of being supervisor? Why do you get to decide my cream cheese options? At what point did you decide there'd be no plain cream cheese? I don't understand.
Take it easy, man.
No, this is true just like with politics and anything else. If we don't stand up for ourselves, they're just gonna fuck us even harder. You're not gonna believe this. They kicked me out of the kitchen.
Back on the Young Turks, Deborah, New York City writes in, NYC writes in. Cenk Uygur, who's that? Deborah, I know you're playing bus nuts with me, but I think you saw in the first segment who that was. Floricita says, welcome back, Cenk, and thank you, Irene, and everyone involved for putting together all the great panels and guests while he was gone. Awesome, I love that tweet. Eric Huso writes in, Democratic projection is them thinking Republicans will cave just like themselves. Great point, Eric. That's why they put out that statement about how, like, oh, after Ossoff wins, they'll probably all retire immediately. No, that's what you guys do, right? Okay, Kevin Towell writes in, Ossoff only needed to run an ad playing handles, quote, I don't support a minimum wage, insta win. Kevin, great point. The minimum wage is, now at a national level, is $7.25. How are you gonna make a living at $7.25? How are you gonna put food on the table for your family, for a family of 4 on $7.25? Are you kidding me? Run an ad, run campaigns on that. Oh no, but that, it's because your donors want the minimum wage as low as possible. Just say it. Just say it and it'll go away. Anyway, all right, let's go to the next story. Okay. While I was away, there's a very important story in the New York Times about how Robert Mueller's team is investigating Donald Trump. So everybody made a big deal about that, as they should. It's a huge issue that the special counsel is not just targeting people related to Trump or his campaign, but Trump himself. But the very last paragraph of that article, I think, was by far the most interesting part. And there just wasn't that much focus on it, so I wanted to make sure that you guys saw it and you realize how important it is. Because I think that in some ways they were burying the lead. So here is the last paragraph. They said a former senior official said Mr. Mueller's investigation was looking at money laundering by Trump associates. So that came out exactly a week ago. Money laundering. That's not a light charge. That's money laundering against the President of the United States of America. That's what the special counsel is looking into now. We're just brushed past it like, oh yeah, they're looking at money laundering for the president. Anyway, what? Okay, now I'm not surprised by it because I told you. Didn't I tell you that? I should have the told you sign next to me, right? Which is, I said it's financial because that's all Trump cares about. And he's been doing money laundering for the Russians. It's out in the open. He buys a house in Florida for $40 million, sells it to them just a little bit later for $100 million. That house didn't go up by 60% in a short period of time. That is a very common practice on how you launder money. You take money, you take cash out of the country that you're in by doing things like that. So if you haven't heard of that practice, that's okay. That means you're not a money launderer, okay? But it's very standard practice in money laundering circles. Donald Trump and the Russian oligarchs had their money in the same part of Deutsche Bank. You know what it was referred to? It was referred to as the global laundromat. Okay, now Deutsche Bank didn't call it the global laundromat, they're the ones who run it. Investigators call it the global laundromat, okay? So yes, it's about Trump, yes, it's about money laundering, a very, very significant crime. And then the rest of the paragraph. The suspicion is that any cooperation with Russian officials would most likely have been in exchange for some kind of financial payoff, and that there would have been an effort to hide the payments, probably by routing them through offshore banking centers. Let me reemphasize that. Financial payoff. Financial payoff. What did I tell you? I said this months ago. It's Donald Trump doing a deal with the Russians. It isn't on the edges like, oh, you kind of helped me win the election by leaking some emails, and then I'll see if I look out for you. Nah, that's not gonna get anybody in big trouble. I mean, that's what maybe the Democrats thought in the beginning. That's not that big a deal. No, Donald Trump, A, all he cares about is money, okay? B, the Russians are the only ones who would lend him any money. C, Donald Trump has never not bankrupted himself. So here's probably how it turned out. And I said this, I don't know if it was 6 months ago, but long time ago, as soon as all this came about, right? Donald Trump can't borrow any money from anyone else. He has to borrow from the Russians. Now that's been confirmed by his sons. When asked by a golf magazine, how did you guys get money for these golf courses? No American bank will lend you money. They said, oh, we went to the Russians. Told you, told you. And what does Donald Trump do? He's an idiot. He runs everything into the ground. He probably owes the Russians a lot of money. I don't know if you know this, owing the Russians a lot of money is a bit of a dangerous game. Now, there is something you could do. You could become president. Oh my God, how did the Democrats let this guy win? Anyway, you could become president, and then you lift the sanctions on a $500 billion deal they had with ExxonMobil, and voila, you paid off your debts. They're more than happy. The revenue on that deal is expected to be $9 trillion. Maybe we let Donald slide on the loans that he owes us. Now, again, I'm not the one, I was saying financial payoffs. Now it's special counsel saying financial payoffs. Now it's special counsel investigating Trump saying money laundering. So, you know, you got to prove it. You got to be meticulous. Oh, one last thing. Here's so brazen because Trump is not smart enough to be sophisticated and subtle about it. So the deal is with ExxonMobil, the CEO of ExxonMobil, now the Secretary of State. They ran a lot of these deals through a second bank, the Bank of Cyprus. Now you want to guess who the head of the Bank of Cyprus was? Wilbur Ross, Secretary of Commerce. Not subtle. Trump also not smart enough to cover it up. They'll find the paperwork. Pence, get him warmed up in the bullpen. Okay, all right, here we go. Next, just a fun little story for you guys real quick. That graphic's not right. Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey at a stunning, unbelievable, record low approval rating of 15%. Wow. Maybe Dick Cheney got to 15%, but I can't remember another politician at 15%. He broke the record for most unpopular governor in New Jersey history. Congratulations, Chris. When they asked him about it, he said, the fact is, who cares? You guys care much more about the stuff than I do. I've said to you over and over and over again, poll numbers matter when you're running for something. When you're not running for something, they don't matter a bit, and I don't care. I think that's a hilarious quote, because that quote basically says, look, when I'm looking to manipulate you and win an election, well, then I care about my poll numbers. And I care about pretending to serve you so that you'll reelect me and then I can direct your pension money to my donors. Okay, when I'm not running for reelection, what do I care? I'll run the thing into the ground. You hate me, good. I don't care. You don't like that I give all your money away to my donors. Don't care. You don't like that I supported Donald Trump. I don't care. I'm not running for re-election. I already tricked you. Sad day for you. You know, the people used to think Chris Christie's so honest. Oh, tough talking honest guy out of New Jersey. Yeah, no, this is the only time he's actually been honest. When he says, look, it's all about me, and if you don't like it, that's tough nuts for you. By the way, to justify our graphic that he's the biggest loser, the governor's approval peaked out at more than 70%. He went from 70 to 15. I'll do the quick math for you. He lost 55 points in approval rating. Unreal. That's what happens when you don't care about your voters, you don't care about your constituents, you care about your own career, and then laugh at them on your way out. That's Chris Christie in a nutshell for you. The only time he's ever actually fit in a nutshell. That's not right. Okay. Glass house meets stone. Okay. We'll be right back, and when we are, I'm going to tell you how Betsy DeVos is robbing the education department blind. I got a bunch of things to go through. No Republican would have ever voted for Bernie. He would have done worse than Hillary Clinton.
They're so miserable. All right, I'm gonna stop myself before I say things that are offensive.
If I ran for office, and that would be a trippy day, right? I'd break even more rules than Trump. If I had all the money in the world, I would enjoy that.
We have a great show for you. Steve's answer is C. Dave's is A. And the correct answer is, of course, B. You guys are the worst. Here's the story, and it's not funny. Steve is over too.
It seems just comically unfair and ridiculous. The Democratic Party just sucks right now. It just sucks because it doesn't know what it stands for.
We should probably wrap it up.
Hey Cenk, what's up?
Aaron, I'm reading some of the comments on a YouTube video I did. What's a cuck? Go.
Robbie Canal, he calls his work urban beautification.
I didn't go out to be a street artist or to make posters. I was just compelled to do it. I was mad enough it didn't matter. It was like a form of minor civil disobedience even, you know, like, fuck you. How about your higher crime? Power operates to self-replicate itself, to maintain the status quo so it stays in power. When you go to do something like this to express yourself in public about an issue you care about, make sure you pick a bigger weapon, and the weapon is knowledge. The one thing about street art, it's not like I put up my posters to change anybody's mind about anything. The difference between propaganda and the kind of art I do is propaganda is telling people what to think. The way the art works, where the art works, is between the time you see it and the time you figure it out for yourself. I'm an optimist. I might have made a lot of ugly paintings about a lot of ugly people, but it's out of love, not for them.
And then he says, Chris, you and I are going to have the meatloaf.
He tells you what you're eating.
Yeah, and I said, well, we're going to have the meatloaf? And he said, I'm telling you, the meatloaf is fabulous.
Did you have the meatloaf?
I did.
It's emasculating.
No, it's not.
All right, back on the Young Turks. There's a super chat on YouTube where people say curious things. MacGyver the Lizard wrote in, aggressive progressive lizards don't know what it means. God bless your heart. Anyway, Derek Martin writes in on Twitter, hashtag TYT Live throughout the show to talk to us. Trump's presidency is a loan from Russia by way of personal debt to be repaid in political favors at expense of US taxpayers. Unfortunately, that appears to be the case. If they prove it, lock him up, lock him up. We decided during the break that in the case of Ossoff and the establishment Democrats, resistance, but not too much, a little shout resistance. And then Edwin came up with a good term for it, resistish. Okay, there, hashtag resistish. Join the resistish. Yeah, don't join the revolution. Okay, all right, let's go to the education department. This is already a fun story. Okay, Education Secretary Betsy DeVos is up to her old tricks, which is, well, look, let's be fair. Let's find out, right? We're gonna go to an article in The Hill, and she's appointed someone new into the department. Let's find out who it is. So they explain Education Secretary Betsy DeVos's pick to lead the department's $1.3 trillion student loan system is, hold. Okay, so now let's fill in the rest of the sentence. This is to help students with their loans, because they're on the side of the education department, the public, the government. They're supposed to be looking out for you. So you and your kids and your loans. So now, what might be a reasonable end to that sentence? Found someone who is an expert in helping students with their loans, and who has fought for students for lower loans, for example. Wouldn't that make sense? I mean, if you're on the side of the students, that would make a lot of sense, right? Well, let's find out. Let's find out what the rest of the sentence is. Is the CEO of a private student loan company? Oh, well. So, Fox meet Henhouse. The guy whose job it was to maximize profit on students and their loans is now being put in charge of student loans from the government side. Gee, I wonder what he's gonna do. I can't quite tell. See, this is exactly what we're talking about when we say that Trump didn't drain the swamp, he rebuilt the swamp. He's the swamp monster. So he claimed that he was against for corruption, then he brings in all his cronies and goes, go ahead, rob the place blind. Do whatever you need to do. So when asked what experience he has in helping students, right, as opposed to helping himself get rich off of students, they bragged that he had, quote, CEO level operating skills. Well, yeah, that makes sense since he was the CEO of a private student loan company. Okay, they further explain on The Hill, A. Wayne Johnson, who was tapped as chief operating officer of the federal student aid, is the founder and chief executive of Reunion Financial Services, a company that originates and refinances student loans. Now, it doesn't mean that by definition he's a bad guy and maybe they refinance loans in perfectly lovely ways. You'd have to do an investigation. I'd be a little surprised, but you never know. So I'm not judging his company at all. I'm just saying that if you picked an advocate for students, that would make a lot more sense when you're talking about running the federal student aid. Maybe someone who worked at a great university in their aid department, maybe someone who's done this job before, but they don't believe in that. They believe in maximizing profits off of us. So they find a CEO and they put him in charge there who has maximized profits off of us. Okay, The Hill points out something else that's funny and telling. That credential about how he was the CEO of that company is notably absent from the Education Department's release on Tuesday announcing Johnson's appointment. The only vague reference was the one I quoted you, where in the middle of a long sentence they were like, he has CEO level skill, without actually explaining who he is. Yeah, that's the reason he has that skill is because he was the CEO of the guys on the other side. So it's a revolving door. So your student loans, are they going to get any better? Given who's appointed to that position, seems unlikely. Seems like, again, one last time, it's not to say that he's a bad guy, but the more you have to pay back for your loans, the richer his company got. And he as an executive there got. So now when they put him in charge here, do you think he's going to want to lower your loans or increase your loans? Just do the math on it, see where you come out on it. So you put Republicans in charge and they don't look out for you, they look out for their donors. And this is another classic example of it. Okay, now one last story for you guys. Okay. In Virginia, we recently had a shooting. Guy clearly did it for political reasons. In this case, a very rare situation where he was on the left. He was a Bernie Sanders supporter. Now that's, of course, no bad thing on Bernie Sanders. I mean, if a Martin Luther King supporter shot someone, that's not on Martin Luther King. He talked about nonviolence, Bernie Sanders talks about it. But he was on the left and he did do it for political reasons and he shot a Republican legislator, Stephen Scalise, who by the way has improved now. He's in fair condition, which is great news. But curiously enough, the FBI said today, at this point in the investigation, the FBI does not believe there's a nexus to terrorism. What do you mean there's no nexus to terrorism? You don't need a nexus to terrorism, it is terrorism. He shot people for a political reason. In fact, let's go to the dictionary definition. Dictionary definition of terrorism is the unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against civilians, in the pursuit of political aims. It's literally a textbook definition of terrorism. The guy does a shooting of people he doesn't like, in this case Republicans, for political reasons. There is no nexus to terrorism, it just is terrorism. Now, gee, I wonder why they don't call it terrorism. Let's take a quick look at this gentleman here. Oh yeah, that's true, he's not Muslim. Okay, left wing or right wing, if you're white, I wouldn't call it terrorism. There's no all in front of his name at all. Al Fine, all dangerous terrorist. Okay, not fine, obviously, killed people and would have faced charges, etc. And then I thought, what, is there any white person they've ever called a terrorist? Fair question. Well, actually, there are, and we found them. Okay, if you remember, of course, Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, he's pretty much considered a terrorist, sure. Timothy McVeigh, who did the bombing in Oklahoma City. Eric Rudolph, who did the Atlanta bombings, Olympic bombings, and he did abortion bombings as well. I figured it out. If you're white, if you want to get called a terrorist, you've actually got to bring a bomb with you. Okay, now if you're Muslim, you run people over, you're a terrorist, you knife people, you're a terrorist, you shoot people, Orlando, San Bernardino, you're a terrorist. Well, I mean, they had a political reason, they targeted civilians, etc., right? If you're white and you shoot congressmen, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, Gabby Giffords, Steve Scalise, or you shoot anyone else, if you don't have a bomb with you, you ain't a terrorist. It's curious, it's not in the dictionary, but that apparently is the definition we're going with. Call it what it is. All right, we're done in the first hour. We got an amazing second hour for you guys. Again, harrowing video when we come back of Philando Castile's girlfriend when she was handcuffed and her 4-year-old is trying to comfort her after her boyfriend has been shot and killed. It's tough to watch, I understand if you can't, but I want you to watch it so you get a sense of how people are treated in this country. So just take a minute to be in somebody else's shoes for a second, and it might give you a better sense of what people deal with. All right, we'll do that when we return.
I just closed my Wells Fargo account.
I just divested funds from Wells Fargo.
I definitely urge you to do the same.
Please come divest. Divest today from all the big banks. Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Citibank, Chase. There are so many others.
Do it, we can make a difference.
Water is life.
I'm Hassan Piker. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Hassan D. Piker and on Twitter at Hassan the Hun. And this has been The Breakdown. Was that good, guys?
Okay. Not enough hashtag use. Hashtag abs, hashtag model, hashtag woke bae.
Hashtag one black friend.
I'm thinking more rings.
I got him here.
You need more accessories. Way more accessories.
I don't know where to put it.
Come on, throw these on. Woke bae, not sleep bae.
More sexy too.
When's the last time you posted on Instagram? Too long. Come on, man. No, you need to post at least once an hour. What's the outfit of the day today? Is this what you're going with? No. We need more accessories. We need.
This doesn't have anything to do. It doesn't.
For your gay audience, man.
Yeah, the gays love you, man.
Okay. What else? What else do I need to do?
You haven't appropriated a culture in a week.
We have like a kimono or something.
Damn, that looks good on you, dude.
Perfect. How many rings you got on? Do we have any more?
I got 3 more.
Yeah, can we get more rings on this?
And when you're done, kiss the ring. Look at the camera. Kiss the ring. Maybe like a little wink.
Islam's role in terrorism and all the Huffington Post articles weren't doing well. I wasn't.
How many likes did our last outfit of the day picture have?
Only like 100,000.
So I think that's where your focus needs to be. I hear you on all the blah, blah, blah social issue. We need to focus on followers.
Kids in Yemen.
We don't care if you sleep at night.
Dab, dab.
Okay, I'll dab.
There you go.
More.
Talk about yourself more.
I'm Hassan Piker. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram.
Yeah, be more into it.
Instagram is important for me. Americans losing access to healthcare coverage.
I hear you. Attack Tommy more.
I've done it so many. She shoots out of her living room now. It's like punching down now.
We're okay with that. But it helps the brand.
We made you. We got you verified.
You're nothing
come
without
on.
us.
I don't know what else I need to do here.
Dude, just take off that shirt.
That's exactly why Tommy Lauren is stupid. I hate you. I'm Hassan Piker. Follow me on Instagram.
Hashtag woke bae.
Hashtag woke bae. Please follow me. Please.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur, John Idarola with you guys. Anna, I believe, is at VidCon, which is where I'm headed for a couple days, but I will be on the show tomorrow. I want to read a couple of quick member shout-outs, John. Ronald Picker and James DeFabio are members of the day today. In the post-game, John, you and I will discuss a little bit about my National Lampoon's European trip.
Ernest Does Europe.
Yes. Yeah. And I want to let you know what I thought of Italy, because it's the first time that I've spent like real time in Italy.
Country.
Yes, that's right. It's your old country.
Yeah, a lot of them are getting old, man.
Have you ever been to Italy?
No, I never have. I've actually only been to Europe a couple of times, and only because of TYT, basically.
No,
like Oslo, Germany, all that is just because of TYT.
Look at this local yokel
Denmark.
that we found.
I've been to a few places. I don't know.
John,
I'm cultured enough that when I saw stroopwafel in a Walgreens yesterday, I was like, in America, that's weird.
Oh, look at this guy.
It's delicious, by the way.
When we found John, he was on a street corner doing this.
I can't hear it.
Oh, you couldn't hear it? He'll do it one more time.
I'm a slack-jawed yokel, apparently.
Okay, all right, Kicking It writes in on hashtag TYT Live, it would appear Trump is the ultimate guy in the inside, both for Russia and CEOs. And Just Ray here writes in,
hopefully not for Melania.
Ooh, well, given her public disavowals of him with the hand slaps, it appears perhaps so. Just Ray here writes in, considering DeVos paid her way into her position, I'm not surprised by her choice to bring in a new swamp monster. Yes,
definitely.
And if you remember, I told you about this server that Donald Trump has in Pennsylvania. It's in the middle of Pennsylvania, and some of the top cyber experts in the country looked into it. They're like, that's weird. He keeps getting pinged by only 2 outlets. One is Alpha Bank, a bank in Russia. Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah, there's PewDiePie.
Right, and
weird.
And then the second place that he gets pinged is from the DeVos family.
Really?
Yeah.
I see. I didn't even know that part. I knew the bank part.
And then lo and behold, Betsy DeVos becomes education secretary. And by the way, her brother, Eric Prince, goes and does a secret meeting with the Russians in Seychelles.
Yeah.
Oh,
I remember that.
All wild coincidences.
I put up this meme early on after the Trump inauguration with Captain Picard. It was like every morning waking up in the US, it's Captain Picard and it just says damage report. And I honestly feel like we're on a ship, the shields are down, and we're just getting shot from every side. And like every one of those deserves 100% of your attention. Like DeVos is shooting you from back here, and like you turn to deal with that and to shed some light on it, and then you're like, oh God, the Department of Housing is doing something, and it's overwhelming. There is too much to focus on.
But luckily, cable news only has 24 hours, so they focus all their energy on only one issue.
Hey, that's not fair. They film shows in jails too. That's pretty much it. I think they also send that guy around to sample food in different countries.
That's true, and there was
3 issues.
Right, and they had Reza Aslan looking into religion until he said something mean about Trump, and they fired him. Right. Okay.
They had 4 issues at one point. That was their peak.
Yes, and I don't think I didn't appreciate your Star Trek analogy.
I tried.
And that's why, so there's these videos of us, Young Turks election night meltdown that conservatives love. Bless your hearts. Oh, I hope we're monetizing those. I got to talk to Aaron about that. Anyway. Anyways, remember what I was saying on election night. Brace for impact.
Yeah.
And exactly like our shields are down, damage report, and brace for impact.
And even so, we held on to our chairs and we were still comically thrown over a railing on the bridge.
That's right, that's right. Okay, I forgot to give you guys the poll from the very last story. So real quick, graphic 35 for you guys. Was the Virginia shooter a terrorist? Very simple, yes, no. tytnetwork.com/shooter, okay? tytnetwork.com/shooter. Was the Virginia shooter a terrorist? Maybe you guys disagree. Maybe you think that he's not a shooter a terrorist for other reasons.
If we get to the final story, I ran a poll that we will show the results of during the final story of the second hour. If we get to
wonderful, wonderful. I'd love to see that. All right, let's go forward.
Before we jump into the stories though, we've been trying to remind people of the Flint water crisis, not just obviously the particulars of each news event. And we showed you, I believe a week ago, thankfully, some arrests were made, charges filed for those who caused deaths in the early parts of the Flint water crisis, but also just how long we've been going on, because it's easy to sort of forget how long this has been happening. And so our count up now is up to 1,042 days since it became obvious that there were potentially lethal problems with the water supply in Flint. That is when total coliform bacteria was finally detected and reported. And this is an indication that things like E. coli or potentially even more dangerous bacteria were present or theoretically present in the water supply. And we are now years past that. and scarcely improved in the situation since then. So just a reminder, while we're addressing all of the other problems in the country, that and many other problems that don't often get talked about are going on in the background.
And for more on that, obviously we've got great coverage of that at youtube.com/TYTpolitics. All right, what's next, John?
Okay, we're gonna be starting off on a slightly dark note, a somber note. We are less than 1 week out from the Philando Castile verdict, where the police officer who on camera from multiple angles murdered him, walked free. And since then, several more videos have been released, and each one is admittedly very difficult to watch. We have one for you today to give you an indication of what was happening in the minutes immediately after Philando Castile was shot. And again, a warning, this one is particularly difficult to watch, but with that warning, here it is.
Mom, please stop saying cousins and screaming because I don't want you to get shielded. Okay, give me a kiss. My phone just died this long. I can keep her safe. It's okay, I got it, okay? Come here. I can't believe they just did that. I could take these off? No, please, no. I don't want you to get shooted. Turn around and grab something real quick. Mom, Daddy, they not gonna shoot me, okay? I'm already in handcuffs. Don't take them off. If you like, take them off and you get everything started. 624, we're gonna put a quick shield. Raise the boy, take it. I wish this town was safer. Yeah, it does. We would live in it. That's true. I don't want it to be like this anymore. Tell that to the police, okay? When they come, okay? Tell them you wish that they didn't have to kill people. It's so bad. I should have been told that.
Oh my God, I mean, I've like preparing for the show, I already watched that video, but still watching it again. Jeez, I mean, that's a 4-year-old kid. So the video you're seeing there is shot in the back of a squad car. It's Philando Castile's girlfriend, Diamond Reynolds, and their daughter, Dan. And it's a 4-year-old child saying, I want this town to be safer. The shooting was by a police officer.
Well, it's obvious that she was brainwashed by Black Lives Matter. She watches the news every day. She worries about the things because, you know, she's been told that that's what really happens. It's not her actual experience. She's 4 years old. She's in the back of a police car after watching her father get shot. Multiple times, and she was in the line of fire on top of it. And now she's in the back of a police car with enough wherewithal to try and tell her mother to try and calm down or else she's gonna lose her too. Minutes after losing her father. So you sit in the back of a car, you're 4 years old. How many of you guys have been in the back of a police car? How many adults that are watching this show have been in the back of a police car? Were you scared? Were you worried? Did you not know what was gonna happen next? Or did you have enough wherewithal to sit down and probably calm the person down next to you who's an adult, to have that wherewithal to talk to her because you don't want anything more to happen? Because she wants this town to be safer. This asshat that ran some campaign, I can't remember, but it was I think a local office. He's a former police officer, and his ad had police cars racing down the street and said, this is a safe community. That's not safe to a lot of people in this country. I don't understand how you can't get that, but so you can keep calling people just bad guys and bad apples from the beginning, or just, it's just the nature of black people just to be evil and just ready to kill. Do you think she is? Or do you think something like this will teach her that she can't trust you? Which one is it? She just comes up with this out of nowhere? Or is this learned or is it natural? Just, you have to ask yourself that question. How do you feel if you're in that position? Do you get mad? Or do you just sit there and go, yeah, you know, this is my fault that my kid is sitting there hugging me with handcuffs on, telling me not to take them off or else I'm gonna get shot?
Yeah, I mean, your point there, Jay, reminded me of what Scarborough said about Muslims in the Middle East. They hate us because they hate us. No, there's usually a reason, right? And so, you know, they say, oh, why do black people run away from the cops? Well, This is one of the reasons. So I both can't believe and I guess totally can believe that the Second Amendment enthusiasts in this country aren't going literally ballistic over this case. Here's a guy who had every right to carry that weapon, did exactly as he was supposed to. So if you guys don't remember the Philando Castile case, real quick background, gets pulled over. He's been pulled over 33 times. Not anything wrong he did. He's in the wrong part of town, being black, which is, I guess, all parts of town, right? And so, and he's a law-abiding citizen. He's got a good job. He takes care of his family. Not in trouble with the law, but they keep pulling him over, keep pulling him over, keep pulling him over. They don't give him tickets because he didn't do anything wrong. But they're just like, oh, black guy, pull him over, right? So in this case, he gets pulled over and he says, officer, I have a legally registered weapon. I just want to make sure you know it. And the cop flips out and shoots him. You know, what was the cop charged with? He was charged with second-degree manslaughter. Now, was it, in order to, it's not first degree, it's second degree. So you had to show that it was basically so negligent that it led to that man dying.
That seems
like that's exactly what happened, right? And he was also charged with 2 felony counts of intentionally discharging the gun. He didn't even get convicted of that. Nothing at all.
What, did he accidentally discharge the gun 7 times?
Yeah, and so if you're a Second Amendment advocate, does that mean that if you say you carry your weapon legally and you tell an officer he has every right to execute you, the guy got acquitted. So I guess he has every right to execute you the minute you say you have a legal weapon.
And as you point out, he wasn't just leading his life the way you're supposed to. That exact situation, he did exactly what you're supposed to. He told the guy as soon as he came up, he knows, I don't want this cop being surprised to find out I have a gun, so I better warn him in as calm a way as possible. He did that, and the cop unloaded like a bear was rushing at him. And think about the amount of fear that you have to operate with, that you're like 2 feet away from a person. They're sitting there, you have your gun pointed at their chest. And let's say this guy actually believed he had a gun. He thought this guy Philando, he's just gonna go for it. Doesn't matter if there's a gun pointing at him, he wants to, like in an Old West duel, he just wants to see if he can make it happen. What kind of bizarre fictional world does this cop live in that he thinks a person would try to pull a gun in that situation? And then because he's so scared, he doesn't just fire, he fires 7 times almost point blank into this guy's chest. Knowing there's other people in the car, that there's a 4-year-old in the line of fire, he unloads as if he's trying to take out a tank.
If he was a white right-wing patriot who was carrying his weapon and the cops executed him like that, what kind of a fury would there be on the right? Imagine if it was a Bundy boy. And he said to a cop, oh, by the way, officer, I have a legal weapon on me with a certificate. And the cop just killed him on the spot. There'd be national protests over it.
And what excuse is there for there to not be? I mean, normally they'll come up with something. They committed a crime a few years ago. They used to have a profile picture I don't like. In this case, they've got nothing and they still don't care. They even know how hypocritical it looks, and even then they can't pretend to care.
So look, all this is a lead up to, if you do everything right and they still kill you, then don't black people have some justifiable reason to be afraid of the police? I'm not saying do anything bad against the police, of course not, right? Violence doesn't solve violence, it makes it worse, right? It makes people more jittery and leads to more violence against black people. But should you have a reasonable fear of cops if you're African American? If you're not, it's easy for you to say no. If you are, not so easy, right? Yeah. So, I mean, look, and as far as Black Lives Matter, do they matter? So to me, in some ways, and this video goes to show it, the most gut-wrenching stuff happened after the shooting. So the famous video that Diamond Reynolds, the woman you saw in that video, shot, is the cop, after shooting him, keeps pointing the weapon at him. It takes forever for them to get Castile out of the car. It takes forever for them to actually get him help.
Yeah.
And then she just saw her boyfriend get killed. They handcuff her. And they put her in the back of her car. Now look, let's put the racial stuff aside for a second. Let's look at class in terms of 2 justice systems. You think if you just shot the mayor of Beverly Hills and then you handcuff his wife, you let him bleed out, and then he dies, and then you handcuff his wife and have the 4-year-old in the back, that you don't get, I mean, the consequences would be so overwhelming, and it doesn't matter if you're white, black, rich, or poor, you know it. You know it in every fiber of your being that there would be massive consequences for that cop.
Yeah.
And here there are no consequences at all. So now finally we get to the Philando Castile's dead, his girlfriend's handcuffed, he bled out. The immediate reaction was, oh my God, I accidentally shot this guy. I gotta get him help, somebody help, right? Why don't I help? Why don't I do CPR? No, my reaction is, no, cops need to be safe. My job is to protect and to serve, but not you, only me. Why do I pay you to protect and serve if you're only protecting and serving yourself, right? So then I make sure I take the person who's been terribly traumatized, handcuff them, and have their 4-year-old watch it. Look, the 3 things she said that absolutely broke my heart. I don't want you to get shooted. You have a 4-year-old, I have a 4-year-old. Coincidentally, I happen to have a 4-year-old daughter. They say things like that.
Damn,
oh God, could you imagine if your daughter had to say that to you or to say that to your wife?
I wish this town was safer.
I wish this town was safer, and she's not talking about the criminals. She's talking about the cops. And she at one point hugged her mom and said, I can keep you safe. But if you're African American in this country, that is something that is not guaranteed to you. And so, yes, it is appropriately named because they want Black lives to matter, and unfortunately, as you see time and time again, they don't seem to matter nearly as much as other people's lives in this country.
Yeah.
And it is heartbreaking to see that 4-year-old saying, I can keep you safe. And the only way that she can think of to keep her mom safe was she kept saying, keep your handcuffs on. Because if you're not handcuffed and you're a Black person in America, you're not necessarily safe.
And we know sadly from some incidents, even if you are handcuffed.
Even if you are handcuffed.
Imagine what it takes for the NRA. They will use any tragedy to advance their agenda. They're not interested. Even if it helps them, they won't show empathy in this case. And then of course, even with the footage from multiple camera angles, no justice afterward.
No justice.
Anyway, you wanna move on to the next story?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, also a sad story, so I apologize in advance for that. This weekend, 17-year-old Nabra Hassanin was abducted and murdered after leaving a mosque early in the morning. And now, to add insult to injury, just several days after that happened, a memorial was established for Nabra, and someone went this morning and set it on fire. DC police confirmed to the Daily News that officers were called Wednesday morning after fire was set to the memorial at a fountain. A spokeswoman said that Jonathan Solomon, a 24-year-old from South Carolina, had been arrested just after 10 a.m. and added that at this time, the incident does not appear to be motivated by bias.
Come on.
And so I reached out to the police department to try to find out if, they keep saying South Carolina, did this person travel to there? And I have not been able to have it been confirmed at this point. But I would argue that regardless of whether he lived in that area or he traveled expressly to set fire to it, there's some bias involved in that. He didn't accidentally, he wasn't just looking to start a fire and the memorial was there.
So in the case of the original death of Hassanin in this case, there's some dispute as to why it happened. So originally, unsurprisingly, people thought it was a hate crime because they were on their way to a mosque. They were wearing headscarves, at least certainly Nabarra was. And so given the climate in America, people made a reasonable assumption that it was related to a hate crime, which is, there's a couple of them that were in the news very, very recently.
Very recently, yes.
Now, authorities say that might not be the case, that it might have been road rage. Now, it's a weird kind of road rage because he chased them with a baseball bat. It seemed like they weren't in the car, so I don't know why he was raging.
No, they had been walking home from walking to the mosque from an IHOP. He had either been driving, it's not immediately clear if he was parked and they were nearby. They said that he pulled over onto, I believe, the sidewalk. So he had either been driving or they passed him and he drove to catch up, something like that. And had an argument, came out with a metal baseball bat.
And abducted her, and then
after hitting her, yeah.
Yeah, and then God knows what happened afterwards. I'm afraid to find out.
They're
And
still investigating.
Yeah, and her body was found later in the day in a nearby pond. So either way, second-degree murder is the charge, and they're investigating him, and hopefully he'll be punished to the maximum extent. Now
thankfully they caught him very quickly.
Yeah, that's right. Great job by the authorities in finding him. Now turning to burning down a memorial. Who accidentally burns down a memorial or burns down a memorial for someone, but it doesn't have anything to do with the memorial?
It doesn't have anything to do with any bias.
Like what? So somebody drove from South Carolina to do a random act of is a pyro and was like, I don't like burning things in South Carolina. I want to drive all the way over here.
It's the first flammable thing he saw on the news.
Yeah. So that seems super weird to me. In fact, if it's the same authorities, who again, credit to them for catching them, telling me that the memorial being burned down is coincidence, and they're also telling me that their initial crime is also a coincidence.
Yeah.
It makes me question whether their initial crime was actually a coincidence or road rage, or if it was a hate crime.
It's a whole bunch of coincidences, apparently.
That's right. So look, you got to investigate that stuff and find out. And as this stuff is fresh, there'll be a lot of miscommunication. Things will settle down, and hopefully we'll get some real answers. But it would be very, very surprising if a memorial to this Muslim girl who was killed was burned down for anything other than that it was a memorial to a Muslim woman who, I mean, who else would burn down a memorial to anyone else?
To anyone. Yeah, regardless of what drove the initial crime, this guy seems to have had some sort of bias.
Yeah.
And I guess just because of what's been happening internationally in the past couple of weeks, it bothers me. It should bother everyone. Remember, Donald Trump tried to spread that myth that after 9/11 there were Muslims on the rooftops cheering. This idea that terrible act happens, people die, and some group takes joy in that. It didn't actually happen, but he was spreading that idea. And here you have this girl killed. Some people apparently are fans of that. They like it. There were the Muslim worshippers leaving in London that were driven down by the guy in the van trying to kill as many Muslims as possible. And the son of the owner of the van company says he wishes that they had rented him a tank or a steamroller instead, glorifying the fact that the killing happened. There's Facebook pages filled with positive comments after events like this happen, and for some reason that's not supposed to be a problem. That's just it's just a couple of bad seeds. We're not supposed to be disturbed by the fact that when you kill Muslims, people are allowed to cheer. They're allowed to be happy. They're allowed to call for more violence, and we're not supposed to be disturbed about that.
John, those are just lone wolves. And
just tons of lone wolves collecting together and talking about how awesome killing Muslims is.
Yeah, and remember, Islam is dangerous and violent. So that's why you should set their memorials on fire.
Exactly.
And if you're in London, you should run them over with a truck because they're dangerous and violent.
That's what I'm learning.
Or perhaps it could be that extremists on both sides are dangerous and violent because they're extremists and fundamentalists. And that what's driving the violence is the extremism and not whether they happen to be Christian or Muslim, white, or anything else.
Yeah.
No, that's crazy talk. Let's go back to doing the thing we're really good at, picking a minority and blaming them for all the problems, and then feeling really good about ourselves. And then if that minority is attacked, saying, I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, and people are just so scared now that they will, like the idea, so I read, there was an analysis that said the chance that you'll be killed in a terror attack committed by a refugee is 1 in, I believe it was 3.4 billion a year. But a random 17-year-old girl deserves to die. The leap that it takes mentally to get to that point, and this is not a rare leap. I mean, maybe not a lot of people will act on it. Maybe not a lot of people will kill Nabra. Maybe not a lot of people will set her memorial on fire. But for everyone who does one of those two things, there are a lot of people who are happy that it's happening, and that is incredibly disturbing. Thankfully, a Launch Good page was set up for Nabra's family, who's still in the very beginning of their grieving. And it's raised more than $314,000 for them as of early Wednesday afternoon.
Never gonna bring their daughter back. It's tragic any way you slice it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a quick break here. When we come back, hey, look at this, a man of principle. Talk show host quits because he's not allowed to criticize Trump. And then a treasure
His
hunt.
name, John Itarola.
When I come back alone, I will tell you that story. Okay, and then a treasure hunt in New Mexico apparently cost 2 lives. Is it even real? I love that story. We'll share that with you when we come back.
Today is truly a historic day with the Supreme Court decision that makes same-sex marriage legal nationwide.
So this is one of those days in American history. It doesn't come along that often, where we have expanded the circle of liberty.
Look, all we try to do on this show, okay, is to give you perspectives, right? So you can get a better understanding.
We need to change our mentality and understand why these people are trying to leave their own countries and everything that they've known, everything that they've built.
Yeah.
It's not to come here and harm you.
Anytime you force someone, like they did in Arizona, to carry their paperwork, it's to remind them every day that they do not belong in your society.
Now that is the sound of fascism beginning here in America.
Doesn't that scare you? Don't you see history repeating itself? That xenophobia and faux populism to get people worked up to attack outsiders.
That is violent rhetoric, and your violent rhetoric translates to violent actions. If you don't get that, well, you're either in denial or you know it's true and you just don't want to admit it.
What's the message we're sending to the rest of the world? I mean, give us your poor, you're tired, and we will greatly mistreat them under horrible conditions where some of them will die. That's not what the Statue of Liberty says.
If you asked me to come up with something insulting to Latinos, I couldn't have done anything like this. I wouldn't have thought to insult their grandkids.
2/3 of the people shot when they're unarmed were blacks and Latinos. That means they were wrong. They're like, who cares? Shoot them, shoot them, shoot them, shoot them.
Look, my dad was born in Syria. My dad could have stayed in Syria and he could have been a victim of all this, right? And the thought of the United States saying no to Syrian victims, I don't know, it makes me incredibly emotional and incredibly angry because I think it goes against what this country's about.
The fighters, the warriors, the ones who go the extra mile, in this case literally, to provide for their family and to look for that American dream. And they shouldn't be forced to live in an American nightmare.
All right, we got a graphic incoming. Putting up 3, 2, 1. All right, video next. And next video. And power panel. And dropping it.
back on TYT. Lubza writes in, I had that clip on mute, but for God's sake, she was 4 years old. Imagine her state of mind. I can't even begin to imagine. I hear you. JR was talking about it during the break. Anyway, I'm going to leave it alone. It's just heartbreaking. Rita Ann says, we forget about the other victims of police shootings, the children left behind. And then Chris Bradshaw.
The families left behind, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Chris Bradshaw writes in about the Muslim girl who was killed. He says, I've been to that mosque that girl was coming from 3 times. No hyperbole. They are the nicest people I've met in 10 years living in Virginia. You know what? Let me read one more thing here. Annie says, just super suspect to rule out hate crime so early when her religion could be a contribution to why he picked her as a target. I think that's a fair point by Annie because, like, given that it was not a situation where they were driving and so that could be, he might not have even seen her headscarf or they would just, somebody cut somebody off.
Yeah.
Okay, you can understand that. But when I found out it was road rage, but they didn't have a car, that he pulled over and climbed the sidewalk to come after them, how do we know that that rage wasn't triggered by what they were wearing and their headscarf? Yeah. And so I'm not saying that it wasn't. I'm just saying I think Annie's right that it's kind of weird to immediately eliminate that as a possibility.
And it's entirely possible there's a lot of things about road rage I don't know, but I've seen road rage, we've covered videos of it. Road rage is the immediate thing you do. Not that you attack someone, then decide to take them with you, then possibly tragically sexually assault them, murder them and stash their body somewhere. That's this long drawn out thing. That does not fit with what I know about road rage anyway.
All right, anyway, all right, let's go to other stories.
Okay, let's mix it up a little bit. A radio talk show host in Pennsylvania has apparently just recently quit his job after being told by management that he is not allowed to criticize Donald Trump. He put out this statement. This is Bruce Bond, who said, I really hated to quit my very fun and honest show, but under these rules, I could not continue being honest to my fans and listeners. I'm sorry that there is this really ugly political environment in this country with the current president. Unfortunately, Central PA can't handle someone as liberal and brutally honest as I can be quite often. Thanks for understanding my side of the story. But let's bring up the letter, the email I should say, that was sent to him that apparently triggered this. If we could bring this up. You see there, this is to serve as notice that it is not permissible on WTPA airwaves to talk disrespectfully of the president. Right. I've received backlash in the form of emails, phone calls and such. There's threats of boycotts. And finishes by saying, this cannot continue to happen. I've asked previously to cease political discussion. If this cannot be achieved, spelled incorrectly, we will have no choice but to discontinue the show, coming from the VP and general manager of that particular network.
Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. I worked in radio a little bit, and in fact, we're back on Sirius Satellite Radio now. You should check us out there.
Are we allowed to criticize Donald Trump?
I'm pretty sure we are. God bless Sirius. And when we were allowed to criticize anyone we liked when we started on Sirius 15 years ago. So, but in my times in radio, we were also syndicated for a while, and it was really hard to get on in stations. And most of them wouldn't tell you, but we did have an honest program director in Minnesota who told us. He said, look, almost every station back then was conservative talk. So if I put you on, the rest of the audience is going to be pissed, because all the other shows are conservative.
Then they should listen to this.
Right, and I said, so are there any progressive channels in Minnesota, in your market? Nope. He's like, look, man, I don't think there's that many progressive channels, period, anywhere in the country. And at the time, there wasn't. Later, the Air America came out. That's how old we are. Anyway, so if you're at WTPA and you wanna be honest, but you're on the left, you're gonna be out of luck and apparently out of a job.
Yeah.
And it's funny the different worlds that we live in. Because in LA, if you're not disrespectful of the president, you'll be shunned.
Yeah.
And there, they're like, oh my God, how dare you criticize Donald Trump? He's so beloved here.
Yeah.
What? It's amazing.
In the bathroom, we have a classical music station on. They call Trump an a-hole. No, that didn't actually happen. But yeah, they're very rough towards the president. Yeah, so look, I reached for a comment that general manager said, I'll make this clear and concise. Bruce resigned, we've accepted his resignation and we wish him well. That's basically my comment on Bruce. trying to avoid some problems there. But what's interesting is it's entirely possible that this Tim fellow was the reason for that letter, but it could potentially go even higher up than that. Philly.com reported that WTPA owner Pat Garrett is an unabashed Trump loyalist who apparently even wrote a song backing the Republican during last year's campaign, which sounds ridiculous. So of course we had to go and find that song, and we're gonna play it a little bit for you right now.
I'm voting for Donald for president. He is our country's friend. I'm voting for Donald for president. He'll make America great again.
What? You know the old saying about Pennsylvania, in between Philly and Pittsburgh, there's Alabama.
Nothing against Alabama, the nice parts of it. But yeah, so a guy who loves Donald Trump so much that he is willing to write and then record and then release what you just listened to, that's a zealot. And it's possible that he's putting a lot of pressure on the managers at his networks.
Of course, I'm voting for Donald Trump. What did you say about Donald Trump? But look, again, to be fair to the right here, it's not like it doesn't happen on the left. Because when I was at MSNBC, they were not happy when I was disrespectful to the president back when we had a Democratic president. So one instance was when Obama gave a speech about the Egyptian revolution, and right afterwards I said, look, I'm gonna keep it real with you. And I said that he was playing both sides. He had complimented Mubarak and the protesters, which made no sense. And I got a stern talking to by a lot of people at the company about how that was disrespectful to the president. Because they said, oh, well, you said it right after his speech. I was like, would it be more respectful if I said it a week later?
You're supposed to wait a year.
Yeah. So they're not the only ones guilty of it, but in this case, it is a conservative apparently. That's trying to. That kind of partly misunderstands the point of the First Amendment, especially because we also have freedom of the press in the First Amendment. But look, it is his station. He does get to do what he wants with it. So he's not the government, and hence the First Amendment is a concept to him. It doesn't apply to him.
Exactly.
Right? And so it is what it is. So if you're in that neck of the woods, WTPA, if you're Trump and only Trump guy, I guess it makes sense. If you believe that you should have diverse opinions, that is not the station for you.
Yeah, and really fast, what this made me remember is that this is not a one-time thing. God only knows what older problems he might have had with that network. This could have been a long-running thing that finally culminated in leaving. Is I remember we talked about there was a conservative radio host, I think, who said it's clear that the audience wants 100% loyalty to Donald Trump. I consider myself a conservative, but I don't like Donald Trump and I will criticize him, and it led to him stopping his show. It was either radio or online. But the amount of intolerance, like we like to imagine that people are getting more and more open-minded. Everybody says that. Everybody says that they're critical thinkers and they like their views being challenged. They like diverse opinions, but a lot of people want to hear exactly what they believe without straying an inch from that. And it can affect you whether you're a liberal like this guy trying to appeal to conservatives or a conservative trying to appeal to conservatives.
When people say they like critical thinkers who challenge other people's ideas, they mean your ideas, not my ideas.
They like seeing takedown videos made by people I agree with. That's what they mean, unfortunately.
Okay, what's
anyway? Okay. An Uber driver in South Florida was recently given a $250 ticket, but not for their driving. It's because the driver did not speak English, which is apparently, at least as of today, something you can get a massive fine for. This was Carmen Hechavarria, was dropping passengers off at Miami International Airport last Sunday when a traffic officer stopped her to engage in conversation. Hechavarria didn't understand what that traffic officer was saying, so they brought a Spanish-speaking officer over, and then she was issued the citation after the translation was finished. Hechavarria says, "I felt discriminated against," and you can track down. There's some video that, for copyright reasons, we're not going to show of the conversation between them. But she was apparently taken aback by this law because I don't think this is something that we're familiar with necessarily. But yes, Miami law requires all ride-hailing drivers to be able to communicate in English under the terms of a local ordinance passed in May of 2016. An Uber spokesman had a limited comment on this, said it says they have to communicate in English. It doesn't say they have to speak English.
Well.
And I guess to do the driving, there has to be some communication. Apparently that had been working, I guess, up until this point. And this law has been enforced upwards of 40 times since its enactment several years ago. It will, as of about a week from today, be taken away with a new state law that does not require this English proficiency.
Yeah, I had mixed feelings about the story, but it's because it was really badly titled. It said Uber driver faces fine for not speaking English, and you might get pissed at Uber if that was the case. It's not, but I actually wouldn't have been pissed. I understand that a lot better. I think if you're a private company and you decide, hey, listen, we got a business to run here, and the most common language spoken in America is, and Miami is still in America, is English. So you got to be able to speak English to do this job. There's logic. Now, for example, I just thought of this right now. If someone came here and they said, okay, I only speak German. I'd like to do Young Turks channel in America.
Schluppen das.
I'm like, this is not me, dummy. Okay, no, you can't. Like, if you want to apply for TYT Germany, bless your heart. But you can't go on air and not speak English when we're doing a show in English.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but which is why the difference between it being Uber and it being a traffic officer seems really important. Like,
that's right.
I mean, look, if it was Uber was like, you got to stop driving until you learn English or something, we could have a conversation about that. I don't think there would be a uniform opinion. I think a lot of people would still have a problem with that. But being fined $250, like imagine how many Uber drives you have to do to earn that $250. I remember once I got pulled over as I was parking to go into my waiting job. I was waiting tables at an Indian restaurant. I get pulled over because apparently I took a left turn where you're not supposed to, and I was given a ticket for $162. It was perfectly safe. I'd done it dozens and dozens and dozens of times. And as I got out, I just thought, like, I'm about to go into this shift, busting my ass to serve food, and I'm not gonna make enough money even to pay off this ticket. So like, I'm basically serving for free tonight. She's Ubering for free for multiple days possibly. Yeah. That's unacceptable.
Okay, random quick story. I get pulled over at a stop sign, but it's like, how they have speed traps? It's a stop sign trap. That means that nobody sees the stop sign. It's buried under a tree. That's why the cop is sitting there. So wrong. And it's in the middle of nowhere for no reason. It's like, that's just to give people tickets. And the cop pulls me over, fine or whatever, this is what they do, right? But he says, "Oh, did you see what you did there? You endangered everybody's lives in the car." And we're like, come on, dude, it's a stop sign trap. And then one of my wise ass friends from the back, he's like, "Thank you, officer. I was this close." I'm.
My God. Yeah, that's what I would do in America is taunt the police.
No, he's like, you should give him a ticket. I mean, woof. I was so afraid for my life. Anyway, but you can't, if you're Miami, I'm glad that Florida is making them take this away. It's a different thing when the state does it, when the government does it.
Yeah.
It's because we are allowed to speak different languages in America. It might be inconvenient for some of us, but it is what it is. And that's diversity, and I'm totally in favor of. And it's easy to get frustrated in Miami because a lot of people don't speak English in Miami. Well, if you don't like it, then go home.
Yeah.
Then don't go to Miami because a lot of people don't speak English there.
Yeah,
that's okay.
You can move out of Florida. You should anyway. I'm kidding, totally kidding. Florida's awesome.
So it's wrong for the government to say you must speak English, otherwise we will give you a $250 ticket for not speaking the language we kind of like.
Yeah.
Okay, for a private company, I think it would be a different matter.
It's so much. It is so expensive not being rich in this country.
Yes.
Anyway, we have time for one more story. We doing buried treasure or the doll?
No, here's what we're doing. We're doing buried treasure because I promised it to everybody. And then we're gonna take a quick break and we're gonna come back for the online audience, tytnetwork.com/live, and do the man bun Ken doll story, which I love. Okay, so let's do the treasure.
7 years ago, there's this author, Forrest Fenn, who's a bit of an adventurer, and he decided to create an adventure for people to engage in. And so he is said to have hidden a treasure chest with up to $2 million in it, worth of treasure in the mountains north of Santa Fe. And since he did that years ago, tens of thousands of people have gone looking for it, which sounds fun, but the tragic thing is that of those tens of thousands, 2 have now died while looking for this treasure. We have most recently Pastor Paris Wallace of Grand Junction told family members he was searching for the buried treasure and later failed to show up for a planned family meeting Wednesday earlier this month, actually. His car was found parked near the Taos Junction Bridge, and his body was subsequently found 5 to 7 miles downstream. But he is not the only one. Randy Bilyeu went missing in January of 2016 and was later found dead in July of that year. Randy's spouse later said that he died because of a hoax. She doesn't believe that the treasure was even buried, and there is no proof that there is any treasure out there. No one has found it. But here's what they're looking for. The elusive and minuscule bronze treasure chest is said to measure only 10 inches by 10 inches and weighs 40 pounds. It's packed with almost 300 gold coins, gems, rubies, and hundreds of gold nuggets, 2 of which are apparently the size of eggs.
No.
And again, allegedly hidden somewhere in a dangerous mountain chain.
Not buying it. Okay, so let me be very clear about this. I don't want to over publicize this story because I don't want you to go try to find that stupid treasure, which most clearly does not exist. So this guy tells a lot of tall tales and he calls himself a risk taker. That's the kind of guy I am. And apparently his books are extremely costly. And I'll tell you right now that if he ever admits it, he's gonna say, yeah, I mean, obviously it was a risk that you guys were taking that it was there in the first place. And he was just having fun, that's all. And one of them is the book, the original book is called The Thrill of the Chase, gives you 9 clues in how to find it in north of Santa Fe. His second book, the sequel, is tragically entitled Too Far to Walk. And apparently that was the case for
Which is
people.
part of one of the clues, actually, that's too far to walk.
Yeah.
And multiple books have been written about this, which I'm sure is good for him there. Even I saw Vox, which is a site I go to often, they sent people to go look for it as well.
It doesn't exist.
This is the country. This is the country we live in, man. My family watches those like the Hunt for Skull Island Treasure TV show, and people love that stuff. Really fast, he was reached out and asked, maybe you should call this off since 2 people have died. And again, he's not responsible for that, but it did happen and it could happen again. He says that's an option, but I've not made a decision yet. Today I've received over 200 emails urging me not to call off the hunt and 2 that think I should.
This dude did not have $2 million, which he turned into gold that he hid because he doesn't like $2 million.
Gold and gems.
He doesn't have 2 golden eggs. He doesn't have rubies and gems, and if he did, he wouldn't bury it. Why is he charging all the money for the books if he's got $2 million? Why don't you just go dig it up, and then you'll live perfectly fine in Santa Fe?
You don't understand that risk-taker lifestyle.
He says he was a pilot during the Vietnam War, and he was shot down twice and safely rescued both times. I would urge authorities to look into that.
It's entirely possible.
It is entirely possible that it didn't happen. This guy's enormously full of crap, and the guy was a pastor. And then tragically, his wife says, I still believe in it, and me and my 19-year-old son are gonna continue to look for the treasure. Oh, she said, I know without a shadow of a doubt that it was God's way of taking him.
That's very sad.
For God's sake, get out of there. Go and do a real job. Don't do that. There's no treasure, stop looking. All right, I love you guys.
Unfortunately, we gotta get out of here.
Yeah, we'll do one more story for you guys online when we come back. 99 of them actually believed. One guy got dragged along on a stupid trip and he was like, all right, fine. Okay.
Every year, you and your friends take that trip around America. Maybe you head to Santa Fe.
don't put any.
Imagine Dave Kohler like just digging for treasure.
My friends are the most skeptical people on the planet. They make me like look like, a true believer, right?
An
ain't gonna be looking
InfoWars
for
fan.
no treasure, okay?
Okay, that's possible.
All right.
Okay, why don't we do our last story? If you've grown bored with your cookie cutter, one size fits all Ken doll, then you're in for a treat because Mattel has just released a wide new range of Kens to better match what real men look like. And thank God, finally. Ken now comes in 7 skin tones, 3 body types, 8 hair colors, 9 hairstyles, including cornrows, a fade, shaggy dog, quiff, I don't know what quiff is, and buzz cut, which I'll get that one. He also has new wardrobe possibilities that include skinny suits, faux hipster plaid, and beach bum tanks. You lost me, but we're gonna show you some pictures of these, the new variety there. You're seeing some different hairstyles, different shirts, which is cool. He's got different clothes, like that's cool. You're seeing a range there because they've also increased the range of Barbies they have as well. And seeing there, different sunglasses, freckles, hairstyles, all that. You got some Justin Bieber there. And then also, I think if we can go to this next one, they have this new broad body style, which they considered calling husky at one point, and they went with broad. It's broader. It ain't that broad. I've been across America. There's broader than that in America. I think they could push this a little bit farther.
You didn't have to go all the way across America to find something a little broader than that, right? Just look this way.
I've seen dye documentaries. I've seen those shots of crowds with the faces cropped out. We get broader as a people.
Yeah. Okay. So before we get to the heart of this controversy about man bun Ken. Okay, let's just tackle whether this is the right thing to do overall. Of course.
Yeah, of course.
First of all, there are those varieties. I love people who get mad at that. Like, no, Ken should only be white in one particular way in one particular haircut.
Yeah.
Why do you care what haircut Ken has? What a bizarre thing to care about, right? And like, and there are those different skin tones. So, like, do you want to?
No. We draw the line here, no farther.
Yes, Santa is white and Ken is white, okay?
Megyn Kelly would do a story about this if she was still invited. She might interview Man Bun Ken doll on her show.
Second of all, why do you think they're doing? One, because they want to appeal to more people so that, hey, maybe if it looks more like you, you're more likely to buy it. The other reason is there's just more of them, so then hence people are likely to buy more.
And apparently, I was shocked about this. Apparently, they sell almost as many Kens as Barbies because the people who buy the Barbies want Ken to be with her.
Oh yeah,
and so
that makes sense.
Definitely make more Kens. And also, I mean, you want to increase the diversity of different styles of Barbie so that people, like little girls especially, but not just girls, generally girls, I think. I'm probably undercutting the entire thing here, I apologize. We'll have someone that looks more like them. They don't simply have this one idea of what beauty or perfection is supposed to be, but also wouldn't be bad for them to think that, hey, men can look good that don't look like your average surfer necessarily. Because not every guy has the amazing abs of Ken as well.
Yeah, so I hear all that, and it's basically capitalism 101. But now let's go to the controversy burning up America.
So a lot of hairstyles. Let's bring back up. You already showed it, but I want to go to the man bun Ken doll one more time. They've gone too far, okay? There's no reason. We were moving on as a country. We almost got past this thing, but now we're gonna be permanently reminded, thanks to goddamn man bun Ken, that the man bun was a thing. There were some great tweets. I think you're gonna read some, right?
Okay, yeah, so I'm happy to read these tweets. Ben
Mankiewicz actually did a man bun Ken
tweet?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, first of all, let's just acknowledge the bad tweets, okay? So there was apparently some right-wingers who made a lot of jokes about, oh yeah, there's like a girl. Okay, whatever, right? Let's just get past that.
And who says right-wingers can't be funny?
Right.
Everybody.
Yeah, he's gay, ha ha ha, that's so funny, ha ha. Anyway, so now let's go to good tweets. Emily Jashinsky says, does man bun Ken doll also come with Soul Cycle membership, vintage record player, and $50,000 in student loan debt? I love that ending. Summer Goth writes, Man Bun Ken doll just interrupted me to tell me that Bernie would have won. Come on, that's funny.
Come on.
That's really funny.
Come
okay. Benjamin Simon, I guess, writes in the new Man Bun Ken doll comes with shirt, shoes, and keys to Barbie's car that he's driving until he gets back on his feet again. And Rex Hupke writes in the Ken doll with the man bun comes with a bottle of wine from Trader Joe's that it won't shut up about.
In a related sense, Man Bun Ken doll has a new craft beer you gotta try.
Yeah, and I think that they have named him Woke Bay.
Could we get more rings on that Ken doll?
There you go.
Anyway, so look, all these tweets are going around, and Stephen King was tweeting about it, and like I started to feel bad. Like, is there no one more hated in this country than Man Bun Ken doll? Can't he catch a break? So I did some research and I found that there is still someone in this country people hate more than the new despised Man Bun Ken doll. I ran this Twitter poll. If we could rerun the 2016 election, would you support Donald Trump or Man Bun Ken doll? And the results are fairly clear. 92% Man Bun Ken doll, with 1,340 votes having already been cast. Poor Donald Trump.
Yeah.
He's the broad type. and they have all these hairstyles. They don't have pathetic, suspicious orange comb over. Come on, Mattel. That's a role model right there.
Do I have to tell you that poll was not scientific?
What are you implying? What are you implying? My followers are a diverse bunch, okay?
So, sorry to extend this. Jake, your daughter's in the demographic or the target audience. Again, like John pointed out, yeah, it's not just for girls, but you have a 4-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
Are there any Barbies or Kens in the house? I feel like this is an old school thing that the only way kids go on it is if parents go, oh yeah, I used to play with Barbie dolls, you want a Barbie? And then they get introduced to it. I've never seen a Barbie commercial in years. I have a 5-year-old.
So you have a son. So look, let's just keep it real on stereotypes. Sometimes they're real. So my son loves smash 'em, bash 'em shows. Can't get enough of them. He's already into
Does he watch wrestling?
Playing no, but he's playing video games where you win by doing headshots. Okay.
What game?
Huh?
Do you know the game?
Bowmasters. You know?
I don't know that one.
Yeah.
Actually. Interesting.
Anyway,
he's cooler than me. Great.
Yeah, and he's like about to turn 7 next month, so he's just 6. Wow. She's 4, and I'm trying to get him off those games, but it is a pretty cool game. Anyway, and for my daughter, no, on YouTube Kids, they have Barbie. They have a Barbie show, and that's what got her hooked. So that's why you don't see it, because you don't have a daughter. My daughter, right or wrong, look, this is super unliberal of me, but we didn't tell her, man, I don't know, maybe she saw it somewhere, but before she was watching any shows, her favorite color was pink. She loves dresses. Saw makeup, ran towards it. Didn't walk towards it, ran towards it, okay? And then she doesn't want to watch any of the Power Rangers or any of those stupid shows. She only wants to watch Barbie. And I'm a little worried, not only Barbie, but a lot of Barbie. And I'm a little worried, I watched it. It's gross. It's like, it's terrible, right? It's all like, on top of everything else, it's like enormously materialistic.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Well, I mean, even as they're trying to improve, it's just giving you an opportunity to buy more.
Yeah, of course.
But it's effort. I want to encourage it.
No, my daughter's gonna want every one of them. I'm totally screwed.
Yeah, but
you're gonna have a man bun in your house.
But as you said, before she even saw the materialistic things that they're pushing, she wanted to go to it first, you know?
Yeah.
So there's something that was drawing her to it, right?
Yeah, because for example, so real quick, Jer, the Barbie stuff is on YouTube Kids. My son watches YouTube Kids just as much as my daughter does, but he doesn't watch the Barbie stuff. And it was before any pressure at school, anybody ever talked to them, right? It's certainly not the family. I don't want them watching either one of those things.
There's things that naturally your kids go to. Yeah, my kid thinks hitting is fun, it's a play game and all this stuff. I assume your daughter isn't like, it's so funny to hit. But so the thing is, there's natural things kids in general go to. Now, maybe the majority of boys do this, the majority of girls do that, which is why every time you've heard someone that grew up and either baby transgender or gay or any of that stuff, and then they ask the parents, when did you know your kid wasn't what we see as just like a boy and a girl that we see born? They go, oh well, 4, 3. They can tell
early.
They are who they are, and that's just what it is. There's no denying it. There's no like, oh well, because I put on this TV show, my son totally became gay. Or and I put on this TV show, my little girl was a girl, and now she thinks she's a boy. All that stuff that people consider that we changed on kids, they're just who they are. Either way it goes, and you have to accept it.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I don't know how we got on that side. No, I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. And this show's over, and we have to accept it. Now, in the post game, my trips to Italy and Turkey. What did I learn about Italy? How's Turkey going? I will tell you all that. My parents' reactions. There's a lot of fun stories in here. Oh, the wedding that I went to. There's amazing stories. TYT.
Did your parents go with you?
Not to the wedding. That was on Wendy's side.
Okay.
And they were in Turkey though. Okay. So tytnetwork.com/join to hear all those stories in the post game. Bye bye.